Hey, good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the Commissioner Board. This is Bruce Paterson, Garwood, New Jersey, once again. Let me preface my comments with the fact that your Finance Director, Bibby Taylor, has misled you all in thinking and actually publicly stating that the budget has been flat for the 2 years now. Some history. For 2019, the budget total was $490 million. For 2020, the budget total, sans the $104 million in CARES stimulus, was to $512 million. And this year, it's $520 million. So not to dash your joy, but the budget is not flat. It went up $30 million, or 6%. Further comments and questions. The surplus continues to spiral upward to the point where you are using it to absorb large cost impacts, items such as that $17 million debt from the previous meeting and the $13 million parking garage from a couple meetings ago, and it still grows. Surplus remaining is now $102 million, up from $80 million. I have commented for 4 years now that since Runnels and the Juvie Detention Center closed, you should not still be taxing residents for the operating costs. It should go back to the taxpayers. But rest assured, you're giving lucrative jobs to your inexperienced favorite ones like Bergen and Ruotolo instead of hiring highly experienced people and giving the money back as tax refunds to us. The Finance Director, Bibby Taylor, and the Finance Chair, Hudak, fails to recognize such simple tenets, but they partake in the largesse of this money also. It appears at least $30 million can easily reduce the county property tax further. And that doesn't have to be 1 year. It can be a couple of years. Other items I had mentioned the other meeting is the alleged criminal actions of cutting revenues into the county from the UCUA by millions, despite the McEnroe hearing promises. That is our money, not theirs. Plus, you are funneling millions into the UCIA. This budget has $2 million appropriated and another $1.7 million buried in the recent $17 million debt. The ironic part is that Finance Director Bibby Taylor, who is creating all this funneling of money to the UCIA, is also an integral part of the UCIA receiving the money. And the major conflict is apparent with Ms. Taylor's shenanigans. One suggestion I continually make, is that there should be no more matching grants imposed on the county communities. All that does is make the town increase their taxes in order to get back county grant monies that is actually the towns have previously given to you in the first place. That's just plain nonsensical on your end. I see on page 16H in the budget, we are expending $16 million for rental assistance. Is that the last of the CARES Act monies that we got from last year? And also, one final question, is the $129 million in new federal stimulus monies that we are receiving this year into the county, is that to be spread over 2 years? And an amazing thing is now you're closing the county jail, that large building, and I suggest there's operating costs in there that you better be deducting from next year's budget to save the taxpayers a lot of money. Thank you very much.
All right. I may ask Director Taylor to mention a couple of words on this, but you know, as Mr. Patterson meandered through his comments, it seems you know, he also throws in, you know, some subjective, you know, taking quite literally, you know, nonsense to throw in there. It's typical of his commentary. So didn't know that I expected anything different than that. We're still awaiting guidance on the America Recovery Act, so we don't have any opportunity to use that anyway yet. We're still waiting from the federal government to understand how that's going to impact the county. But County Manager, I don't know if you want to address anything in there, or if Director Taylor does. I heard the semblance of some question mixed in there, but I wasn't exactly sure.
Thank you, Chairman. I really didn't hear anything worth addressing, but I'll defer to Director Taylor.
Sure. Through you, Chairman. First, I think it's important to note that the comments dealing with the debt associated with the Union County parking garage, as well as the Union County government complex, the capital ordinances that were adopted at the last meeting, those don't add to the debt. That's actually utilizing capital surplus funds that we have used, that we've squirreled away throughout the years in order to fund those projects. They have no impact on debt whatsoever. I think it's important that the record reflect that. With regard to 16H, the rental assistance program, that's a new item of revenue that is in the 2021 budget, and you will also see it in the appropriation side. That's the $16.6 million that's under the Department of Economic Development. That item also ties directly into some of the confusion I think Mr. Paterson may be experiencing with regard to understanding the budget fluctuations that naturally occur year to year. So specifically, Section D of the state budget form shows that there are special items of revenue. Those special items of revenue we have to account for, and it is dependent upon having an award letter. So if you look at last year, for instance, we had award letters sans the CARES Act funding of $101 million. The special items of revenue only equal $11 million. You then take out the amount of money that we supplemented out of surplus to account for all of the COVID-related expenses that we knew we had to account for in order to address the testing site as well as the vaccine site. We had $14.5 million. You take all of that out of the budget. Our normal operations were $487 million. This year's budget, taking out the same formula of CARES Act related items and COVID related expenses, which is the $2.5 million that we put into the county manager's budget in order to pay for the MRCs that we have on staff and for the overtime needed to run the vaccine center. Again, our operating budget is $487 million. And I'll just go into the minor detail of the $100,000. There's $307,721,000 difference from last year's budget to this year. It's actually lower by $307,721.19. So it's important to note that the leadership under this board has been very diligent in utilizing the surplus funds in order not to have a tax levy increase. With regard to the Union County Improvement Authority, there is indeed a cleanup that we are doing in order to address some prior year activity, as many of you know, with regard to the renewable energy project. The SREC market actually tanked, and as a result, we have an obligation to actually fund and make sure that the Improvement Authority, which used cash to run those projects dating back to 2015, that they are made whole. And so as a result of the authority granted by the New Jersey statutes 40:37A-76, we are authorized to fund and appropriate monies in order to support the Union County Improvement Authority. So this is actually cleaning up some activity that they've undertaken projects on our behalf. This budget does make them whole, and it does supply the necessary aid in order to effectuate the projects that the county has turned over to them. With regard, I don't see any other questions that need answering, sir, but I do appreciate your time.
Okay. Thank you, Director Taylor. I appreciate you clearing up any misconceptions that regularly come. Okay, I guess, Mr. Clerk,